Hey everyone, this is Louis7 and I have a review video in the Lord of the Rings Online, and while I have already done a few of these for the new War of Three Peaks mini expansion, I have not yet explicitly talked about if it is worth buying. And unfortunately, I just don't think this question has a straightforward yes or no answer. Instead, my answer really is it depends. So for the rest of this video, I will be exploring the things that make it worth buying, then the things that make it not worth buying. And I do want to point out my focus for this video, it will be on the base edition, just looking at the contents of the War of Three Peaks. And I do have another video that compares the different editions, and I also have a more in-depth review. If you are interested in those, they will be linked in the description. But for this one, the goal of the video is to be kind of half review and half informative on War of Three Peaks, just to help you make a better decision if you want to buy it or not. Let's go ahead and get moving on, and the base edition is $19.99, so basically $20, and for a limited time, it will not be available in the LOTRO store. Right now, you do have to buy it through the new LOTRO market, and it'll become available for LOTRO points at an unknown time. It could be a couple months, or a few weeks, or even a few months. We just don't know, unfortunately. But anyway, we will keep that price point, the $20, in mind as we go throughout this review. So let's finally get started with the first section, where I will talk about why you could consider buying the War of Three Peaks mini expansion. And I think the main reason to buy it is for the content, of course. So if you are invested into LOTRO's in-game, I think there is a lot more reason to consider buying the mini expansion as well. In general, it's just really mostly worth considering if you are already level 130, or at least nearing the level cap and progressing to this new area. Otherwise, for players who have lower level characters, so below 130, there is the new mission system that's supposed to be a major feature of the mini expansion, and briefly, I think there are many things in that system that I don't think make the mini expansion worth buying just for the missions. But I will say, if you are only interested in the actual content of the missions and experiencing them, then it does provide some unique, basically quest-like content that scales to your level. But again, if you are interested in a new rewarding gameplay system, this is not that, unfortunately. But again, the mission system does exist and it's a part of it. Anyway, back on topic, let's talk about some of the highlights of the content and why I consider a lot of it stuff that really helps contribute to make the expansion worth the $20. And first off, the questing is very good and fun, I think. The War of Three Peaks phase of the new Elder Slade Zone provides a great, unique experience that is grand on scale, but not like epic battles were. And this you actually contribute and do more work against the orcs and evils of Gundabad as part of regular questing content that follows the new story in the Legacy of Durin and the Trials of Dwarves, which, by the way, that storyline is one of the very few in LOTRO that kept me quite engaged throughout the whole thing, and it really made me interested in where it would go next as I was going through it. So I also think that does help contribute to making the update worthy. And next up, the new group content is super fun to me, and as we already talked about for endgame players, they will likely want to participate in this. It has a lot of new gear and a lot of new rewards that people will want. And again, I did want to keep this section short because buying the War of Three Peaks is really based on if you want the newest level 130 content. And I do have one more reason why some people might think it is worth buying, and that is if you want to support Standing Stone Games and Daybreak Games in their efforts with the Lord of the Rings Online. SSG, they are the developers of LOTRO, and Daybreak Games are the publisher. But Standing Stone Games, the developers, that's a relatively small company that is dedicated to bringing us LOTRO and keeping the game running and continuing to put effort in new content. But having said that, some people would also recommend not buying the update to specifically not support Standing Stone Games based on the circumstances surrounding the update, but we'll save that good info for the next section. But at this point, we have covered some reasons for why the mini expansion is worth buying. But is it all worth $20? And I personally think the update provides enough and good enough content to be worth $20 for me at least, as a player who is invested in the new endgame and level 130 content. And I do also at least a little bit consider the new missions feature, which does contain a lot of content, at least, even if to me it's not that much of a rewarding system. But there are many players, and myself included in this as well, that pay a subscription for the game to become a VIP, where all quest packs and what is supposed to be all non-expansion content comes with the cost of subscription. The sub costs $15 for a single month, or more popularly, there are bundles that make it roughly $10 a month. I personally go with $30 for 3 months, that bundle, and I think there are a lot of players that don't consider this update to be anything special and not worth having to buy. separately as a VIP who again pays a subscription for content very similar to this. And actually, besides the missions, this update is very similar to a quest pack's worth of content, and I covered that more in detail in my monetization analysis video way back if you're interested in that comparison. But while I consider all of these features that make up the mini expansion to be worth $20, I am personally more mixed on my opinion of if it is worth keeping up a VIP subscription and buying the mini expansion at the same time. So one option I would offer that seems to be somewhat popular in the community is if you want the mini expansion and that new content, you could buy it, but perhaps let your subscription lapse for a little bit so to offset the cost with your VIP. And this, again, is something I have just seen and heard a lot of players are doing for that. Alright, with all that, I have covered some reasons for why the mini expansion may be worth buying for $20 for you, but as I have alluded to throughout this, there are quite a few reasons why it may not be worth buying as well. So I have talked a lot about the content, as in the actual things you get in the mini expansion as being what essentially makes it worth buying, at least for players that are already that far along in the game. But there are many circumstances around the update and management, monetization, marketing, and just general business decisions for the update that many people do not support and specifically don't want to give Standing Stone Games their money because of it. And this seems to be the most loudly expressed viewpoint, even though a lot of players do seem to have bought the mini expansion. I think perhaps a more common thing even is people who might usually get the collector's or ultimate edition, one of the more expensive ones, they chose to get the base edition for similar reasons, but again, that is not the focus of this video comparing those editions. Anyway, the problem here started when the update went into beta. This was after the announcement of the mini expansion, and kind of during the beta we got to finally see what the actual mini expansion entailed. The mini expansion was a big new thing, and I think a lot of people thought it was basically a quest pack's worth of content, and this was they thought it was like Standing Stone Games' method of making subscribers and even lifetime VIP holders to have to spend real money on what is essentially a quest pack. So a lot of people didn't like that. And on the mission system specifically, this was supposed to set the update apart from a regular quest pack, and basically what makes it worth the mini expansion price tag, and ultimately why you should pay $20 for this update on top of either being a VIP or just if you're a free-to-play or premium player just simply buying it. But something you probably noticed is I very carefully said that missions are only worth it under the circumstances that you are very interested in, specifically the repeatable and repetitive system that has a lot of content and does go alongside the latest storyline to LOTRO, but it only has a few cosmetic rewards, and you get very slowly gaining currency and small legendary item boosts for things of value, which what I really mean here is you get very, very little value to show for your time invested in the missions, even as both level cap and low level characters. So if you're wanting a new gameplay experience and reporting system, the missions don't make the update worth buying for that. And I think that brings us to really the last reason why the update may not be worth buying, and that is if you just aren't close to LOTRO's endgame or are kind of in that low to medium level range. If you're at level 130 and aren't interested in running endgame activities in the new zone, then the missions are actually the only reason the update could be worth considering buying. And as I've said many times, they are a big selling point for this update, but as we just talked about, I personally don't think many players will find the system engaging enough for the update to be worth buying for those. Alright, so now we have covered why the update may or may not be worth buying for you, and I think at this point I'll go ahead and just nicely summarize everything and wrapping up with this video, give some of my conclusions as well. So, I only consider the update worth buying if 1. You are level 130 and invested into LOTRO's endgame, 2. You are just generally interested in the new level 130 content in the Elder Slade Zone and continuing the Legacy of Durin storyline and seeing the experience that is the War of Three Peaks. And then I consider it not worth buying if 1. You are below level 130, and 2, if you would buy it just for the missions. So both lists are pretty short, but I really hope this has helped you all decide if investing $20 into the War of Three Peaks mini expansion is worth it for you. Again, I really wish I could be all excited and just say, yes, it is worth buying for everyone or whatever, but as covered the kind of outside of LOTRO things with Standing Stone Games and the fact that missions do not offer a very rewarding gameplay experience, I just can't honestly say that it is going to be worth buying for everybody. However, there is just one more thing I do want to look at the end here, and that is if the update may be worth buying at a later time, like thinking when LOTRO has progressed through and past Gundabad even, and has like more level cap increases in the future, and I'd ultimately say it will likely not be worth buying for a lot of people on its own, because you will just get less value out of it in that future unless you think you will enjoy the content that is there in the update enough for it to like really be worth it on its own. But anyway, please do let me know in the comments down below on what you think, and if you think the War of Three Peaks is worth buying or not. And at the end here, if anyone has feedback on this video, please do let me know. I've done a couple videos like this like a long time ago, and really my main goal was to give you all the good information quickly and not go into as much detail as I did on my previous review style videos. And finally, I hope you all did enjoy the video and learn something about the worthiness of War of Three Peaks mini expansion in the Lord of the Rings Online. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more, or considering becoming a channel member to support the content. And thanks for watching, everyone.